Hey, Shalom, Mashbaka. Welcome back to Study Time with the Highest Way Ministry. My name is Raah, and I am going to do a part 2 on atonement. I know you're just so joyful and you're having such a great time reflecting on the great forgiveness that the Most High has for you. And I know you do not want to just waste your beautiful day away sleeping and trying to find something to watch. So I was like, hey, why not watch me? So let's do a part 2. Let's do a continuation of atonement. Um, and we'll call this one, They Sold Us a Lie as Truth. How about that? Part 2, They Sold Us a Lie as Truth. Because as we got down to the end of part 1 in the atonement lesson, we started seeing how Islam came from Christianity and Judaism, and Christianity came from Judaism. Where did Judaism come from? And how does that pertain to us today, right? As children of the Most High El. Some of you out there saying, I'm an Israelite, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm a Hebrew Christian. Well, whatever you calling yourself here in the Americas, how did we get these misnomers and titles, and what is the origin story, right? And we see how it plays in atonement, because depending on which way you went, you might not have been celebrating Yom Kippur today or yesterday or tomorrow or whenever your new moon is. You might not even understand what the Day of Atonement is, right? Christianity doesn't hold it. Islam doesn't hold it. So if you are keeping Yom Kippur or the Day of Atonement, you're in some kind of form of Judaism. I've said it. Some form of Judaism. So we're going to get into how we got to the misnomers or titles in religion or denominations that we're under, and who is the they that has sold us a lie as truth. Right off the bat, some of you are going to say, Esau, it's the white man, it's the this, it's the that. But what if the people that sold us the lie look like you and me? Let's find out about it, right? Let's just get right into it. This is a part 2. Just pretend like we never even stopped, right? We had a short intermission. Let's start at Proverbs chapter 4. Let's get some scriptures in us before we get into too deep in information. Start at Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs 4:2, it says, For I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. So whatever doctrine it is you profess, if it doesn't include the laws from the Most High, your doctrine might be off, sisters and brothers. I'm going to say it right off the top. If your teachers tell you you don't have to keep the law, your doctrine is off. Does that make sense? Let's go to Psalms 119. Let's find out. Psalms 119. Psalms 119 and 142. Psalms 19, 142 says, Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. What do we say in the title of our lesson? Somebody sold us a lie as truth. Then we found out that the Most High gave us good doctrine, and he said, forsake ye not my law. Then we get into Psalms, and he says, thy righteousness, or our righteousness, is everlasting righteousness, and the law he gave us for good doctrine is the truth. Are y'all following me? So if the doctrine that you are in does not pertain to laws given to us by the Creator, your doctrine is off, and your doctrine is not everlasting. Let's go to 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha, chapter 8. Hey, share this. Text everybody. Let them know. Raah on it the highest way. Wake them up. Get them back up now. Get them in the comments. Let's go. Second Ezra chapter 8. We're going to read verse 26 to 27. And it says, "O look not upon the sins of thy people, but on them which serve thee in truth." How can we serve him in truth if we don't keep his law, which is truth? It's good doctrine. The law is the doctrine, and the law is what we're not supposed to forsake. We're not supposed to worry about those people that are in sin. We need to be focused on those that serve the Most High in truth. Verse 27, "Regard not the wicked inventions of the heathen." See, we know the heathens created a lot of wickedness, but he had to use people that look like me and you to get us to buy it. Because we was already fearful, we're already skeptical, we already don't trust the heathen. So he say, regard not the wicked inventions. They've invented a lot of different things to keep us down. He's saying, but the desire of those that keep the testimonies in affliction. So whatever inventions the heathen created, and those of us that sided with the heathen to keep on perpetuating those inventions, it's supposed to be afflicting the nation of the children of the Creator. If that's who you say, I'm the chosen seed, I'm a child of the Creator, I'm a son of El, a daughter of El, a daughter of Sarah, all these acronyms and things you want to say, are you keeping the good doctrine? Are you keeping his testimonies in affliction? Or when affliction come, do you go and seek the inventions of the heathen? He goes on to say here, but the desire of those that keep the testimonies are in affliction. Okay, we're at the end of that. Okay, now let's go to this last scripture. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 20. Let's go see what that got to say. We got the law is the good doctrine. We're supposed to regard those that keep that law, right? It's everlasting. These are the people we're supposed to dwell with. These are the people we're supposed to worry about. Do not regard the wicked inventions of the heathen. Let's see what Isaiah 8 and 20 says. Isaiah 8 and 20. It says, to the law and to the testimony. If the they who have sold us a lie for the truth, if there's a they, speak not according to the words of Torah or the words of the law, it is because there is no light in them. What we say earlier, our light is supposed to shine. If our light ain't shining, that's because the truth and the testimony is not in us. We shouldn't be speaking. So no one who is following a doctrine that's not good and doesn't keep the laws of the Most High, you shouldn't listen to them. But so what they had to do was take the Torah and the law and this thing that the Most High children followed, they had to get it and they had to corrupt it. And listen, every time you hear the word corruption, it ain't going to always look like a bad thing. You put lipstick on a pig, people think it's a good thing. So you got to paint it and create the doctrine and make it look a way that's more appealing. That's why you got all these commandments say, don't go after the ways of the nation. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice your kids like the other nations. Don't get in the land and start following their gods. He had to give all these disclaimers and warnings. And still today, people are not adhering to the warning. So there's continuous generation after generation, they keep on selling us lies, painting it up and making it look like the truth. And we buy it. So let's look at some of the inventions of the heathen. Let's get right into it. Look at this. Religion is the only or the number one way to control a people. Any people. Within any demographic of any nation of people, you will find those that will side with the they. It sounds like something else playing in the background. So there's the they that are creating these wicked inventions. They're coming into the nations of the world and they're finding people that have been abused, ostracized, and beaten down. And they're selling them a better life by siding with them to perpetuate the lie to their own people. And when they did that with religion, they took something that their own people was being bound by, white on white crime, what we would call it, right? But they weren't the same people, but they was putting their own race in bondage, so they didn't have no problem doing it to people that didn't look like them. But once they took that Catholic Bible and they remixed it into a Protestant version, they then split it amongst the white Caucasian people that knew that they were different from the other white Caucasian people. So you got John Smith creating Baptists. You got Charles Parham with the Pentecostal. John Smith with the Mormons, right? Charles Taze Russell with the Jehovah's Witness. Then you got William Miller, who created the Seventh-day Adventists, right? Like, these people never intended for races that didn't look like them to be involved in their denomination. They was just trying to control the immigrants and the migrants coming into the new world, quote unquote. They was trying to control these people with religion as opposed to them coming in the new world doing what they wanted to do. So these people, these immigrants are coming into the new world, finding millions and millions of Aborigines here doing something that they've never seen before. So they have to now send these so-called religious leaders or founding fathers of these Protestant denominations into the Americas to start pushing their version of the blood doctrine of Jesus Christ. So now that they have their people under control, under the doctrine of Jesus, right? Now, what are we going to do with these so-called Aborigines, or are they called the savages? These people who already have high skyscrapers and beautiful buildings and architect and are already living better than they lived in Europe. How are we going to sell these people who are already doing a thing their way that they need to now follow a Jesus Christ that looks like us? We're coming in new, a minority from the mud, disease-infested Europe. We're coming into this place of milk and honey in the Americas, and we're trying to convince these people that they are nobody and they can't make it to a heaven that they've created unless they follow Jesus Christ. You know what? The natives didn't buy it. The natives didn't buy it at all. So, who started Christianity? When you ask the AI Googler, it says Christianity was started by Jesus of Nazareth in the first century. What else started in the first century? Christianity. They saying it started by Jesus, but he was only in ministry 3.5 years. Yeah, he wasn't even alive when it started. But we'll find that out later. Watch this. His teachings, his life, his death, and subsequent resurrection were the foundational events that all of these leaders, all of these man-made religion leaders, now have taken this doctrine from this Jesus of Nazareth, who they say look like him in the Middle East. And now they have now spread that over here in the Americas, with his followers believing he was the promised Messiah. Now watch this. Jesus is supposed to be the founder, but watch this. Paul, the one who was persecuting the Jews, I guess not Jesus people, but he was persecuting the ones making sacrifices, keeping atonement, tabernacles, keeping the law of the Most High. Paul was persecuting and murdering and killing them, right? One of his last murders was killing Stephen, right? It says Paul, a Jew and apostle of Jesus, played a critical role in establishing it. Establishing what? Establishing Christianity as a distinct religion. So it wasn't even a religion, it wasn't even a thing until Paul. That's why everybody be quoting them epistles, them letters, right? Spreading his message to non-Jews and codifying its core tenets. See, we got all these Hebrew Israelites out here saying them ain't non-Jews, them is Jews. But the people who created the doctrine said that Jesus, who they made up, and Paul, who they made up, was testifying to them and allowing them to now have the same covenant as the Israelites. We got to get off of that doctrine. See, we done came in that Hebrew Israelite thing. They done made it all about nationality and ethics, and we not even using our common sense saying, wait a minute, the whole New Testament is flawed, and it benefits them. It ain't never benefited us. So Paul made the doctrine of Jesus into a religion. That's why it don't got nothing to do with no laws. He said them people that speaking that, he said it is because there is no light in them. But everybody telling us Jesus is the light. Walk in the light, beautiful light. Everything, Jesus, Jesus, Paul, false doctrine. So then, who started Islam? Watch this. Next slide. It say Islam was started by Prophet Muhammad, who Muslims believe received divine revelation from God, Allah, through the Archangel Gabriel. So Islam took characters from the 66 books to establish and start their own religion. Like, I don't know how they beefing with Judaism or Christianity and everybody got the same characters in their books. These revelations started around 610 CE, formed the basis of the Quran, Islam's holy book. Their holy book ain't these 66 books put together by the Catholic Church. That ain't what the Quran got. Muhammad then began sharing his message, leading to the establishment of Islam as a major world religion. So Muhammad makes Islam a religion. Paul makes Christianity a religion. Who pushes Judaism? Who started Judaism? Judaism was started by a single, not by a single person. So whereas Islam is credited to Muhammad and Christianity is credited to Paul, when you get to Judaism, it says it's not started by one single person, but is rooted in the covenant God made with the patriarch Abraham. Why not just say Abraham? They don't want to. Why? Who is considered the founder of Jewish people. If he started, if all the Jewish Israelite people come from him, why isn't he given the credit? Then it says Abraham's descendants through his son Isaac and Jacob, renamed Israel, formed the Israelite nation. And the prophet Moses, so Judaism gives credit to Moses, Christianity gives credit to Paul, Islam gives credit to Muhammad. So the prophet Moses later receives God's laws, including the 10 commandments from God on Mount Sinai. You got to know that even having conversations with people. Because whatever they believe in is coming from one of them. Right? Okay, let's continue. What religions come from Judaism? See, we was talking about that at the end of the atonement lesson. And it read Christianity and Islam both come from Judaism. Are the two most significant religions that developed from Judaism, collectively known as the Abrahamic religions. Christianity originated as a movement within Judaism during the 1st century CE. Ain't that the same time they say Christ was, but Christ, he only lived 30 years of the CE, 33 and a half years. He didn't, the other 70 is people making up stories about him. With Jesus being seen as the Jewish Messiah, that don't make sense. Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, but the Christians don't practice Judaism. I'm going to say it again. Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, but Christians don't practice Judaism, nor are the Christians that created Christian Jews. I just said a whole bunch right there. In the first century CE, with Jesus being the Jewish Messiah, Christianity comes from Judaism, but the creators and the Catholic Church, none of them are Jews. They might be Jews from Judea, Edomites, but they're not Jews from Jacob. And it clearly said that Judaism came from Abraham through his son Isaac, through his son Jacob, who started the Israelite nation. So now how is there going to be a Jewish Messiah come and he ain't from Abraham? Like literally from the seed of the people that come from Abraham. It goes on to say Islam emerged later in the 7th century CE, building upon the foundational Abrahamic tradition and incorporating figures and concepts from both Judaism and Christianity. So Christianity is watered down Judaism. Wait a minute. Judaism is watered down truth. Christianity is watered down Judaism. And Islam is watered down Christianity. And then everything else that is outside of Orthodox Islam is mud. Right? So today we got these people that believe in this Jewish Messiah. They call themselves Messianic Jews, Jewish Christians, Jewish believers, Hebrew Christians, Black Hebrew Israelites, African Hebrew Israelites. But I don't think Messianic Jews, I don't know if they keep Yom Kippur. Maybe they do. But you keep Yom Kippur, you keep Passover, you keep Pentecost, but then you believe in Jesus. And all the doctrine of Jesus came from non-Jews. Your New Testament is written in Greek. It ain't Greek translation of Hebrew. It was originally written in Greek. You telling me Israelites was originally writing in Greek? When? All right. Now watch this. Watch this. You seen the founding fathers. Most Protestant black churches is Baptist. They have a branch of Pentecostal holiness, AME, Koji. All of them come from them same European founding fathers. Now watch this. Not that day ain't our problem. We would have never followed that day. This is the day that got us to follow the other day, right? So if you got a pyramid and somebody at the top and you got them founding fathers, then as you move down, the people get darker. Watch this. The Harlem Renaissance. Have you ever heard of Harlem Renaissance? This is the origin and the nexus of our destruction. It wasn't just the civil rights movement and integration and all that. They had to get us through religion, right? The Harlem Renaissance, circa 1918 to mid-1930s, was a vibrant cultural, social, and artistic movement in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City, where Black artists, writers, and musicians produced foundational works of African American culture, fueled by the Great Migration. Watch this. What is that? What's the Great Migration? Is it the buffalo? No, it's you. It's your ancestors, which brought millions of so-called Black Southerners to northern cities in search of opportunity and escape from who? Jim Crow laws. Harlem became a Black cultural Mecca. It's funny that they use the word Mecca, and Mecca is the home of Islam. Listen to what I'm saying. Most High gave me this last night. I'll tell you, I had an atonement lesson, but as I'm trying to go to bed, he got me up with a whole nother another rabbit hole is the reason why majority of our people aren't keeping the Day of Atonement today. And the ones that know about atonement, majority are keeping it wrong. And they're following people that came from this origin. Listen, I'm giving you the origin story of the confusion. So when people are arguing with you on social media and battling with you, right, you already know the Christian point of view. But I'm going to tie it all together and show you how COINTELPRO and the federal government and the powers of the world have destroyed us through religion. Now watch this. Harlem Renaissance. Sounds like a good thing in so-called Black history. When they talk about it in a great way. I'm telling you, it's the worst thing to happen to our people. They seen all the people coming. Now, just like they sent the preachers over to control the white migrants, now you got your great migration of colored people going to the north. We got to have handlers for them. But we can't use our white handlers for them yet. We got to get people that preach our message that looks like them to get them. And it's still that way today. Next slide. Watch this. The Harlem Renaissance religion was a complex phenomenon where Christianity served as both a source of cultural strength and a subject of what? Who know that word? Critique. Who's critiquing Christianity? Probably the people running from the South that don't trust the deliverers, the charismatic teachers of it. They're skeptical of it. It says profoundly influencing African American thought. What? Christianity during the Harlem Renaissance. So listen, you got a migration. We went to New York, and then on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains, where do we go? Memphis, St. Louis, Chicago. That's the migration. And then we went further west. We got out and we went all the way to California. So look at this. It says Christianity served as both the source of cultural strength. Who found strength in it? We're going to see something. And a subject of critique, profoundly influencing African American so-called thought and identity through the period's art, literature, and theater. They use entertainment, sisters and brothers. Listen, they use art. What do you love today? Art, graffiti, literature, people writing books, theater, acting, music. They use entertainment to control and influence the thought of the people. It goes on to say, Christianity was a central theme in the literature and art of the time, deeply intertwined in African American experiences and the struggle against racism and white supremacy. What were they using? Christianity, but the whites was using it and killing and hanging and lynching in Jesus' name, and they were controlling the colored people were not fighting back, thinking they were being good Christians. Come on, man, come on. How is this been in our families? It's been in our families to control us, to keep us to not fight back against the exact people that brought Christianity to us and have been enslaving us, controlling us, beating, murdering us in Jesus' name. Don't be my family member. Don't be nobody that know me trying to come in Jesus' name control me ever again. This is what they don't want. You see my mouth? You see, now I'm speaking, and I'm speaking to the ears of people that can hear me, the truth. Don't bring a God, don't bring an image of a God, don't bring a doctrine that has been used to kill and destroy my people. I reject it. The white supremacists used it to kill in Jesus' name, and the colored people used it to say, well, we'll get our inheritance in the sweet by and by. Come on, y'all. It goes on to say, writers also question traditional religious structures, because the structure of religion had us at the bottom too. It don't matter if you go on a mission, you at the bottom. It don't matter if you join their Bet Dim, you at the bottom. You join the Catholic diocese, you at the bottom. You go to seminary school and you go to them seminary Christian churches, Christian schools, you at the bottom. You go in the army, Negro, you at the bottom. It don't matter what you join, you are at the bottom. Question what is being done, question what is being said, before you end up believing it and going along to get along. It says, with some challenging the idea of a white God. Y'all do understand that I don't care what you brews say. Y'all got y'all new information and y'all new orders from the Alphabet Club. And now you got Hebrew Israelites and you got so-called colored people now saying that Jesus, who was created as a white God, is no longer a white God. Jesus is now colored. Jesus is black. Jesus is a Negro. It doesn't make sense. The people that it created and didn't create him to be that. Oh, it was hijacked. Man, come on. It's been used too much to control us. It is of no good and no use. You changing names, you changing colors, like that's just another trick of the enemy, in my opinion. Let me put that out there. With some challenging the idea of a white God and of advocating for a more human-centered approach to life. Are they saying that Christianity is not even human-centered? Because see, down here dealing with each other, we know right from wrong, common sense, when people stepping out of line doing wrong. But when we trying to think the thoughts of a God that was made up, man, we are nowhere. It's left up to interpretation, and who's usually the one interpreting the ideas and the thoughts of the white God? It ain't somebody that look like me and you. That ain't we. When you see us on TV, TBN, and Word Network, everybody in there shucking and jiving. And now most of those people that was on TBN and the Word Network in the 90s and the 2000s, they've all fallen from grace. All they skeletons is out the closet. All them handlers and the leaders and world changers and world mega church leaders, trash. Bubba Dub, trash. Let's keep moving. So what religious denominations came out of the Harlem Renaissance? That's what y'all want to know, right? So out of this Harlem Renaissance, what came from the Harlem Renaissance? Well, let's look at some of them. Several influential new religious movements as well. And let me get you to understand this. When the Harlem Renaissance started, it was in 1919. How far removed is 1919 from the Emancipation Proclamation, the so-called freeing of the Negro? So that was in what, 1865? So from 1865 to 1919, somebody do the math. How many years is that? So you set the Negroes free. By 1919, Negroes is getting too rich, too wealthy, too powerful. What they started flooding cities, burning cities, and now we got to get the people who's left with religious and integrate them with civil rights. But watch this. Several influential new religious movements, as well as more diverse expressions of established faiths, emerged on gained traction during the Harlem Renaissance. The period's culture and intellectual ferment led to a greater questioning of the status quo and a search for spiritual paths that address the specific experiences and aspirations of Black Americans. Wait a minute. So you're saying they knew Black Americans were looking for something spiritual? They were on a spiritual journey, and somebody had the great idea to create and address those needs. So there is a they that see all of these Southerns, right? You know, the northern colors, the northern white. Everybody up north always think the people down south is slow and dumb. So as you move up north to any city, Ohio, Michigan, Chicago, you start moving up north, New York, and everybody think you come from the South, you slow. And so religiously, they like, we got something for them. We got whatever they need. And they started and they marketed. Listen, they came out of these alphabet schools. They got their orders from the Mayo man. And they went and they came to their people. And they let the people choose what poison they wanted to be controlled by. They put up boxes. They put up egg carts on the ground, and these men stood on there, and they preached the doctrine that they learned in the alphabet school of control, and they came out and tried to mind control all these so-called blacks, coloreds, African Americans coming from the South. Let's look at some of these religions. The first one you can look up that popped up, the bigger one, is the African Orthodox Church, the AOC. It was founded in 1921 by George Alexander McGuire. He is a formal Episcopal priest. Now watch this. The church was explicitly a black nationalist, neo-Anglican institution. What is that saying? McGuire wanted it only to be for melanated people. Why is it saying it's a neo-Anglican institution? Because after McGuire died, if you do the research, the people that came after him went right to the mailman, right to the caucus man to get approval, and they moved this African Orthodox Church under the Caucasian Orthodox Church. They merged, they integrated, and it's no more. So you'll go out there and you'll research African Orthodox Church, and at one point you'll see that it is now under, you'll see a picture of all black men dressed like Orthodox Christian priests. Then when you look up the AOC, you look up it'll be a European. So once the brothers came in and got the people under this church, they took them right to the mailman. The Jehovah's Witness, they can't send Parham. You can't send Joseph Smith. But you send the colored handlers, and once they get the people indoctrinated, the leadership merges them into the Mayo Clinic. Let's look at another one. That one is not so more important to me. They sold out, right? But let's look at this one. Have y'all ever heard of the Peace Mission movement? The Peace Mission movement came out of the Harlem Renaissance. It was founded by the Father Divine. Have you ever heard of Father Divine? You got to do your research. George Baker Jr. is his real name. They call him Father Divine. In the early 20th century, the beliefs are followers of the Peace Mission worship Father Divine as who? As God. And believed in racial and gender equality. You know, when you hear racial gender equality, that's liberal terminology. That means that's integration terminology. What comes with that is weed, homosexuality, pedophilia, and everything else. Sex trafficking, that's liberal doctrine. Everything you don't like about this world is when you see that mixed with a church. We are racially and gender equality. Trouble. Next picture. So this is your boy, what's his name? George Baker. Now George Baker, God, and next to God is Mother Divine. What's wrong with that picture, y'all? So you come out with African Orthodox, and I'm pretty sure, thinking about New York, them is probably real Africans from Africa. When you look at Brother Divine, this is New York Negro. This is New York, New York. But look what he like though. All these dudes is coming out of the same alphabet school, same COINTELPRO. But when he stand on the soapbox, he look like he got money. He in real suits. He got the white girl on his arm, which you know, anti-miscegenation laws, you know they would have hung, lynched, skinned that Negro alive, and cooked and ate him. Literally. That's what they do now. Because he was with that white woman, he'd have been strung up and lynched and left hanging for weeks for everybody to see his body. But this is God. This is Brother Divine, Mr. George Baker. It goes on to say, next slide, the Peace Mission movements. Now watch the connection. I'm going to give it to y'all now. The Peace Mission movement's most famous student was Tommy Garcia, who was raised by the movement's founder, Father Divine. Garcia lived with Father and Mother Divine at the Woodmont Estate, the movement's headquarters in Gladwine, Pennsylvania, from 1962 onward. About Tommy Garcia, In 1962, when Garcia was 8 years old, his mother brought him and his younger sister to Philadelphia and placed them in Father Divine's custody. This dude got people bringing him children. We got trafficking way back. These preachers and what's been going on right now and everybody caught up with Epstein, this ain't nothing new. Garcia was told by movement leaders that he had been chosen to be the son of Father Divine. Garcia's forthcoming memoir, co-authored with journalist Lisa Pulitzer, will detail his experience of growing up in the religious community and untangling the truth from the myth created around him. How many of y'all know who this is on this next page? Jim Jones, not the rapper. This is who the rapper got his name from. What Jim Jones got to do with the peace mission movement? It goes on to say, Garcia gained attention from criticizing the direction of the movement after Father Divine's death. He was alleged that Mother Divine and other leaders mismanaged the movement's assets and exiled members. Wait a minute. Go back to that picture. Mother Divine, no surprise, you Negroes who's stepping outside y'all people. Your wife is going to mismanage that money and it's going to move from the so-called Negro community to the Mayo community. She didn't mismanage it. She moved it from the membership and all those Negroes in New York. She moved it to her people. She was sent there to do that, right? Now look at this. There's a whole bunch of turmoil. It goes on to say, clashes with Jim Jones. Why is Garcia clashing with Jim Jones? Because Jim Jones is a student of Father Divine. Garcia is also known for being a rival to cult leader Jim Jones. Because Jim Jones definitely had a cult. Jim Jones attempted to take over Peace Mission. How you think Jim Jones? Look at Jim Jones. This a flashy European. Jim Jones would have went right after who? Mother Divine. I wouldn't be surprised if Peace Mission movement money helped Jim Jones get going wearing his nice suits. Jim Jones, who attempted to take over, he took over once he was what? Probably sleeping with Mother Divine. Peace Mission after Father Divine's death. Garcia, referred to as the movement's prodigal son, was an obstacle in Jones' plans because he was considered an heir to Father Divine. I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Jones made Mr. Garcia go bye-bye, right? So that's three movements. We got the African Orthodox, we got the Peace Mission movement, and then we got Jim Jones Church. All out of the Harlem Renaissance. And you know, Jim Jones, from that picture, he killed 400 people. Mass suicide. All right. How many of y'all heard of, let's keep moving, the Moorish Science Temple of America? The Moorish Science Temple of America came out of the Harlem Renaissance during the same time. African Orthodox, Jim Jones, Father Divine, and guess who else? Founded in 1913 in Newark, New Jersey. All this is on the East Coast, right? By Noble Drew Ali. And later gaining prominence in cities like Harlem Renaissance, right? Noble Drew Ali was a student of a high priest of an Egyptian cult who trained him in mysticism and gave him a lost section of the Quran. Lost section of the Quran. A lost section of the Islamic holy book, the Quran. Also known as the Circle 7 Quran. This priest recognized Ali as a potential reincarnation of a former leader and prophet of the cult and imparted knowledge of its ancient practices. Among the most notable members of the Moorish Science Temple of America are its founder, Noble Drew Ali, and Wallace Fard Muhammad. who would later found the Nation of Islam. This is all coming out of the same place now. You today don't even know what leaders came out of Jim Jones Church or Peace Mission. The African Orthodox ain't that popular, but now that we done went to the Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Jew Ali, one of his most famous students is Wallace Fard Muhammad. Islam came from where? Christianity and Judaism. And these are the babies here in America of them doctrines. Look at this next picture. This Noble Jew Ali. Good looking brother, right? But he came teaching Egyptian mysticism. And you can see on the right, this is his school, Moorish Science Temple of America. You see that date? 1928. And if you look at their poses in the picture, they are posing and they look just like the Masonic order. I'm going to leave that alone. But let's go on to the next one. So Wallace Fard Muhammad, early role, listen, Wallace Fard Muhammad, founder of the Nation of Islam, is believed to have been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America and a follower of Noble Jew Ali. His early history is poorly documented, but he was known as David Ford L. with the Moorish Science Temple. His successor, claim and schism. After Ali's death in 1928, here we go again, Fard Muhammad made an unsuccessful claim to be the successor of the Moorish Science Temple of America. He then broke away from the Moorish Science Temple of America because they wouldn't vote him in as leader. And he does what? He goes on to Detroit, and he eventually forms the Nation of Islam. So the Nation of Islam is nothing more than Circle 7 Moorish Science Temple of America. And all the other babies that come out of the Nation of Islam here. Because the Nation of Islam is not Orthodox Islam. It's not the Islam that Muhammad started, right? It ain't got its roots in Mecca, but it's a stepchild, right? Now let's look at Fard Muhammad. Now they say Fard Muhammad was a Mayo man. He was a European. But after Fard Muhammad, you got Elijah Muhammad on the left. And after Elijah Muhammad, now you got Farrakhan. So who the handler going to be in control of the Nation of Islam after Farrakhan passes? I'm betting you, I'll put $1 million on it, he going to be as light, as bright as them. Don't know why, but I just guess they like light-skinned leaders. Light, almost white leaders. Let's move on. Another student that came out of the Moorish Science Temple of America is Jeff Ford. He's the leader of the Black P-Stone Street Gang, who converted and renamed the Black P-Stones to El Rukin. So when you hear the El Rukin in Chicago, they are Black P-Stones. They are from Jeff Ford, who was from the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Black P-Stones have splintered into several offshoots and factions over the decades, most notably the El Rukin organization in Chicago and various sets of Black P-Stone Bloods in Los Angeles. Internal power struggles and shifting alliances led to many of these divisions. So this religion, the Moorish Science Temple of America, is all the way down into the blood street gangs. They're going to be using the same hand signs, terminology, speaking. Here you go, next picture. This is Jeff Ford and his members. I see the feds, so this must be El Rukin, right? They look like Bloods. They took the color red, but it's not Black P-Stones. Now that we got the feds over in the right, in the back, we assume that this is him under his leadership of El Rukin when he changed the name from Black P-Stones to El Rukin. Huh? Let's go here for it. I'm telling you, this all last night, man. I'm telling you, watch this. Next group. The origins of the commandment keepers. The founder of the Commandment Keepers congregation was founded in 1919. Guess what? The Commandment Keepers came out of the Harlem Renaissance. So you got more science, you got Islam, you got Christianity, you got whatever the heck coming out of the peace mission, the cult, right? They all cults, but they all these people. Now you got the Hebrew Israelites, right? Their founder was Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthew, an immigrant from the West Indies. Key figures who studied under Rabbi Matthew were part of these congregations. Initially, tradition included Rabbi Yeshurun ben Lewu, Rabbi Zechariah ben Lewi. These leaders continued the congregation's work and leadership. Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, an early figure in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. There we go, Josiah Ford. If y'all remember my lessons before, I broke down the One West teachers and their connections to Rabbi Matthew and Rabbi Josiah Ford. So Ford was an influence on Matthew, and his teachings helped shape the intellectual foundation of the Commandment Keepers. You know who came from Commandment Keepers? The One West leadership. Who came from One West? Every other Hebrew Israelite you see. IUIC, GOC, GMS, ISUPK, House of David, on and on and on. GOCC, all of them come out from under Josiah Ford, Rabbi Matthew, and the Commandment Keepers. Here you got, I believe, Josiah Ford, and on the other side you might have Rabbi Matthew. But you know who else was a teacher that came out of the Commandment Keepers? Malachi Z. York. So Malachi Z. York, so you got the Nuwabians, you got the Moors, you got the Hebrew Israelites, you got the Nation of Islam, all out of the Harlem Renaissance. Y'all tell me it's a coincidence. Tell me every major religion that our people are in right now started in the Harlem Renaissance on the stoops and on those soapboxes, converting people coming from the South. Let's keep going. Rabbi Sham White, he emerged as a later leader of the Commandment Keepers congregation, continuing the traditions established by Matthew. Other Black rabbis, according to a founder of blackjews.org, almost every Black rabbi in America owes his existence to the Commandment Keepers synagogue, suggesting that many leaders receive training there. So whether you in Chicago, whether you what's the dude name with Ben Amin, whether you brother Henry Bowie, all these old heads that would have been young men around that time, they got all their influence come from the same place. Because these people that was in New York went to Kansas, went to Iowa, went to Nebraska, went to Michigan. A former student in his early life, York, born Dwight York, was a follower of the Commandment Keepers Ethiopian Hebrew congregation. Listen at the name. Commandment Keepers Ethiopian Hebrew congregation in New York City. The congregation was founded in 1919 by Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthews. Now look at this picture. Commandment Keepers 1919. They want to be Bet Diem. They want to be them dudes over there. They want to be their European handlers. They Caucasus Mountain handlers. So everybody that come from them want to be like that. They just took the headdress off. They just took the shawls off. They took the suits off, and they just started making garments, right? They started getting more and more radical to the point where you see the splinter groups today. It's out of control. Now watch this. York's time with the Commandment Keepers. You remember York took over for Matthew, right? So born Dwight York, he took over after Matthew's passed, right? So look at this. York's time with the Commandment Keepers preceded his development of the Nuwabian nation. Wait a minute, that's Malachi York. Oh, that's him right there. I did put it in my slides. Born Dwight York. That's Malachi Z. York. He was a student under the Commandment Keepers Ethiopian Hebrew congregation class ran by Rabbi Wentworth, author, Rabbi Wentworth, author Matthew. That's crazy. That's too many first names. So York, Malachi York went on to form the Nuwaubian Nation, a movement that embraced a mixture of Afrocentric, Islamic, and Egyptian beliefs and other spiritual traditions. So the Nuwaubians, they practice more science, Nation of Islam, Hebrew, Christianity, all of it. York's teachings were distinct from the more traditional Jewish practices observed by the commandment keepers. Going on, several congregations are influenced by or trace their roots back to the commandment keepers, including Mount Horeb congregation in the Bronx, Beth Shalom in the Brooklyn, Na Adat in Brooklyn, Beth Elohim in Queens, Na Zakin in Chicago. The Commandment Keepers founded by Rabbi Wentworth, author Matthew, served as a precursor to a larger Black Hebrew Israelite movement that established multiple synagogues and communities across the nation, many of which continue to carry on the traditions today. Let's keep going. Now let's look at it. Now Abba Bibbins. Abba Bibbins, this face right here. Abba Bibbins. He would have been around that Malachi Z. York, Matthew, Rabbi Ford. He would have been around all of them. Look, Abba Bibbins, next slide, came from Wentworth Matthews, who came from Josiah Ford, and they all practice Old Testament only. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all about the blood doctrine of Jesus. Even in the early 20th century, the early 1900s, at the Harlem Renaissance, Josiah Ford, Rabbi Matthews, Abba Bivens, the beginning of the Hebrew Israelite movement. Forget Circle 7, forget Islam, peace. Listen, just this Hebrew Israelite side, sisters and brothers, your founding fathers of whatever you saying, they did not practice and they did not follow the New Testament. Let me keep showing you. Abba Bivens is the beginning of One West. So after Abba Bivens comes Mashah, comes Yaquab, comes Ariah, comes Shar. And from these four men, you get UIC, GMS, HOY, you get Tazadak with ICGJC, and you get GOCC, and you get ISUPK, General Yohana. From GMS, you get Sakari. Who else is the babies? The babies of the babies. IUIC, you get one body. From one body, you get, I can't remember, Battle Axe. There's a whole bunch of babies of babies of babies. But when you go back to their leader, Abba Bibbins, Josiah Ford, and Rabbi Matthew did not practice the New Testament. But I'm not saying any of these groups now didn't keep Yom Kippur, but when you look at all these people that come from one central place, they got different new moons, they got different Lashawan Kadesh, they got different speech of Hebrew, they got different dates of their feasts, and on and on and on. Next slide. Abba Bivens is rumored to have been murdered by a Muslim man he debated in Newark, New Jersey. Muslim man he would have debated. Would that have been Farah Muhammad? Would that have been Elijah Muhammad? Who did he debate? Farrakhan? Malcolm X? What Muslim? Three of his students, Ariah, Mashah, Yaquab, Ariah's father began a new school right around the corner from where Abba Bivens school was, right? Wherever Abba Bivens school was, it was called the Commandment Keepers Ethiopian Hebrew Congregation in New York City. So right around the corner, they started a new 1 West 125th Street in Harlem. They changed the name to the Israelite Church of Universal Practical Knowledge. Sisters and brothers, these is the they that sold us a lie as truth. Now look at this. Y'all know what this is, right? It's called a 12 tribe chart. You remember, Most High said he gave you good doctrine. This ain't good doctrine. Watch this. Raah introduced a number of significant innovations, such as belief in King James Bible. He later introduced a year 2000 prophecy. That was a lie. Raah predicted Christ would return in the year 2000. That didn't happen. Based on his understanding of Hosea 6:13. Obviously, he had no understanding. Raah also promoted a version of Hebrew language called Lashon Kadash. That's probably a lie too. The most visible and controversial innovation Raah introduced was the 12 tribes chart. Now, how many of our Israelite sisters and brothers believe this 12 tribes chart? Made up by Raah, and all Raah's prophecies and predictions was a lie. This is what I'm saying, sisters and brothers. This is just part 2 of atonement. I didn't want to be long. I didn't think it was going to be this long. But listen, this day out of the Harlem Renaissance that works for the other day, the Caucasus Mountain days, or the power of the hidden hand days, they sold us a lie as a truth. And now all our family members and sisters and brothers is in one sect or another. Let's finish with Hosea 4:6. How you going to be? And listen, how many of them preach Jesus? Go back to that slide. Whether you with GOCC and you call him Ashaya, or you with ISUBK, you call him Yahweh Shai. I don't even know if ICGJC is around, but I know House of David, I know Zabat teaches Jesus. No, that ain't Israel Church of Jesus. No, but they teach Jesus. Yeah, they teach Jesus. Their leader just ain't under Abba Bivens, but I know their leader was under Wentworth Matthews and his students, right? They could have been under Yaquab and they could have been under 1 West. And then they went to the West, went to Chicago and all that, and started their congregations. But I know Israel, IUIC, I mean, they Most High in Christ blessed all day, every day. All of these people teach Jesus. So why are they not just Christians? If you're going to be the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, why he's sitting up with Christian pastors preaching Jesus? The Quran has Isa in it. They call him a prophet, but the Nation of Islam, they talk about Jesus like he is God. He's more than a prophet. So just because you keep atonement, my point to part 2 was, you keep an atonement, but you believe in the blood doctrine of Jesus Christ. You think you're keeping the truth, but you got too much lie with it. I done went all up and down the rabbit hole and all through the mulberry bush, all through history, laying it out for you. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. It says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law, which is the truth, which is the good doctrine. Y'all have forgotten the law of thy El. I will also forget thy children. Sisters and brothers, on this day of atonement, looking for forgiveness, Many of you bruised need to ask forgiveness for believing in this blood doctrine. There is no man's blood going to atone for your sins. If you believe Jesus wasn't a man, you're even more delusional. You're even deeper in the propaganda and the spell. If God come, God don't have to pretend to be no man. If he prophesied to come and deliver, he ain't gonna come and not deliver his people. I don't know. I hope I helped y'all get closer and closer to even. I hope you are afflicting your souls and are joyful in it and not weary in your well doing. I thank you for listening to part 2 of the Day of Atonement 2025 here at the Highest Way. Part 2, they sold us a lie as the truth. I'm Raah. Me and my family, we send you the almost blessings, love, and peace to your households as we get ready and prepare for tabernacles. We pray that you and yours are preparing and getting ready. Listen, atonement is not the day to not have off. It's not the day to be doing work thinking the Most High is going to forgive you for not listening and following his commandment. And with that, I love you. Pray, meditate, ask the Most High for understanding. Till you see us again, y'all be blessed. Shalom.